Hi everybody and welcome to Beyond Bones, the dedicated channel for vegan ramen. Today we're going to make my absolute favorite bowl in the whole world, Sapporo style miso ramen. This bowl is intensely flavorful, plus it's really easy to make vegan. So let's begin. First off, we'll start by preparing the tare, the sauce that'll give our bowl of ramen the characteristic flavor. As you can see, there are quite a few ingredients here, and I'll list the specific measurements on the screen, but I'll also put them in the description box below. We start with some white miso and some red miso and some mugi miso. To that we add doubanjiang, tahini, and garlic, ginger and onion, which I had to puree here off screen. To that we add rice wine vinegar, soy sauce, mirin and some freshly ground black pepper, as well as a little splash of sesame oil. Now that all the ingredients are in the bowl, we start mixing them through, and once everything is well combined, we can transfer the mixture into a little container to keep in the fridge. There it can rest for 2 to 3 days, which is really important for it to develop the full flavor. Next up is the soup. So first we'll be making some vegan dashi, which will be the base for our soup. For that we take 20 grams of good quality kombu and 10 grams of dried shiitake mushrooms. And then we put them together in a pot with 2 liters of cold water. This needs to steep for at least 3 hours, but ideally overnight. Especially when making vegan broth, I cannot stress enough how important good kombu is. So really try to find some good quality stuff here. After soaking, we want to turn up the heat on the pot until it hits 65 degrees Celsius. The slower we get there, the better. So we're shooting for around 30 minutes here. When we reach 65 degrees, it's time to take out the kombu. We do this because when the kombu goes over this temperature, it gets really slimy and bitter, and we don't want that in our soup. After that, we bring the pot to a boil and then take out the mushrooms as well as skim off all that white scum that will form on the top. With that done, our dashi is ready. Next up, we're going to prep the vegetables for our soup. We need 1 onion cut in big chunks, 1 carrot sliced diagonally, 1 stalk of celery cut into big chunks, 30 grams of radish, around 200 grams of pumpkin in large pieces, 4 cloves of garlic smashed and with the skin removed, and about 20 grams of ginger. All of these we are then placing on a lined baking sheet and putting into a 200 degrees Celsius oven for around 45 minutes or until we have some nice browning on most of the pieces. These brown bits will give our soup some deeper flavor and color. And since miso ramen is naturally cloudy, we don't need to go for a super clean broth here. We then start adding the browned veggies to the hot dashi and about half a cup of dried chickpeas. We also add 1 star anise as well as half a tablespoon of black peppercorns. Then we just bring it to a bare simmer and keep it there for around 90 minutes. After 90 minutes, the soup is done. So we take a fine mesh strainer and pass all that good stuff through it into a container that fits in our fridge. Look at that. Beautiful color, and I guarantee you, amazing flavor. So right, noodles. To start off, we measure out sodium carbonate and potassium carbonate, as well as some salt. Ramen Lord clearly has the best noodle recipes around, so this is an adapted vegan version of his Sapporo style noodles. We're making 4 portions here, but you could easily scale it down to 2. In a tall container, add 152 grams of water and then add in the salt first and dissolve it. Next, mix in the potassium and the sodium carbonates. It might take a while, but it's really important to get rid of all these little clumps that form at the bottom until there are no clumps left. Into this mixture, we give just the tiniest pinch of riboflavin, which will give us this awesome bright yellow color. Next, in a bowl of a stand mixer, we combine 394 grams of all-purpose flour together with 10 grams of vital wheat gluten. We then start the mixer and let it run to combine the ingredients for a little bit. Then we very slowly drizzle in about 2/3 of our water mixture and let that run for 3 minutes. After that, we pour in the rest and let it run for another 2. At the end of it, it should resemble something like wet sand. Of course, you could also do this all by kneading it with your hands. Next, we put the mixture into a Ziploc bag and press it down with a rolling pin, or our hands. Now we need to let it rest for at least 1 hour for it to properly hydrate and so that the gluten in the dough can relax. After 1 hour, it's time to laminate. We take out the dough and we fire up our pasta maker. It's easier to cut the dough sheets into the right portion size at this stage and then run it through the machine. Here, 1 sheet of dough should be around 140 grams. We start with the widest setting and work our way down. After the 4th setting, we take the sheet and we fold it together in thirds, like a letter. Then we run it again through the widest setting and repeat this process 3 times. The most important thing here is to always stretch out, fold and laminate in the same direction so that the gluten strands get all aligned in one way. This makes a stronger noodle, and if you want to learn more, I highly recommend Ramen Lord's free ebook where he explains the science behind it. After properly laminating the dough sheets, we dust them with some cornstarch and put them back in the Ziploc bag for another hour of rest. After this last rest, it's finally time to cut the noodles. So we take out the sheets and attach the right cutter to our pasta machine. I like to use the round spaghetti cutter with 2 mm width. Since we ended the laminating phase on the 4th setting, it should be exactly 2 mm thickness, so the perfect size for the spaghetti cutter. Afterwards, we roll them into a nest and place them in a sealable container, because they need to rest for 1 day, ideally 2 days in the fridge. If we want to be super safe, we put some parchment paper down and in between the individual nests to prevent them from sticking. Now we will start preparing the toppings. To begin, we want to create these finely sliced scallions for the top. So we take the white part of the scallion and remove that middle part. By doing this, we can put down the outer layers flat and finely julienne them. We do this diagonally and then place them into a bowl of cold water. Next, we prep an onion, which we just cut in half and then slice into thick slivers. After that, it's julienning again, this time a whole carrot. And lastly, we prep a cup of bean sprouts, which we soak in cold water and remove the yellow head and tails from them one by one. You don't have to do this, and honestly, it's quite tedious, but the end result is an all-around crunchy bean sprout and totally worth it in my opinion. Now, let's make some butter corn. We drain 1 can of corn from its juice and wash it. We then melt some vegan butter in a saucepan and add the corn. We want to cook this for quite a while and really caramelize the corn. When it starts to get brown spots all over, it's time to take it off the heat. Next, we get into the quote-unquote minced meat. In a pan, we heat some neutral vegetable oil and start searing 200 grams of a vegan minced meat, breaking it up into chunks as we move along. If you don't have store-bought vegan minced meat, you can also take soy chunks and soak them for an hour in some of the stock we made. After about 3 minutes on high heat, we add some flavoring. This consists of 2 tablespoons of our stock, 1 tablespoon of soy sauce, a half tablespoon of mirin, and a half tablespoon of black bean sauce. We combine everything well and let this cook down for about 3 to 4 minutes and then take it off the heat and put it aside in a bowl. Lastly, we take 2 to 3 slices of our vegan char siu each per bowl and sear them off with a blowtorch so we can have them ready. You could also easily fry them in a pan if you don't have a torch. My next video will be all about how to make this crazy good vegan char siu from scratch, so if you want to check that out, stay tuned and subscribe to the channel. With that done, all our toppings are prepared. For the aroma oil, we need 200 grams of vegan butter or margarine, 3 shallots, 40 grams of ginger, and 3 cloves of garlic. We start by slicing the shallots and the garlic really finely. After that, we remove the skin from the ginger and cut it into little discs. Then we take a saucepan and melt down that vegan butter until it's bubbly. Then we turn down the heat to low and add our aromatics. This needs to fry on low heat for quite a while, between 20 and 30 minutes, and needs a good stir like every 5 minutes or so until everything is a deep brown color. Finally, we pass it through a sieve into a container and look at that liquid gold. We take our spatula and squeeze out every last drop of oil out of the aromatics into the sieve and then remove the big pieces of ginger. Finally, we put down some kitchen paper and spread out the shallots and garlic to air dry, so we have a crispy topping for later. Now it's time to put our bowl together. First off, we put about 350 ml of stock in a saucepan and start gently heating it with the lid on. Then we put 2 tablespoons of our incredible aroma oil into a pan and turn up the heat to high. To the pan, we add carrots and onions first and sear those for about 2 minutes. Next, we add the seasoned minced meat and let it warm through for just about a minute or so. Then we go in with the bean sprouts with a quick stir, and after that we add 50 grams of our miso tare. Since the pan is ripping hot, we only need a couple of moments here to coat all the veggies and the meat with the tare before we go in with our heated stock. Be careful, this might splash a bit when the stock hits the hot pan, so we're stirring a lot during this stage. When everything is combined, we cover with a lid and keep warm until our noodles are done. For the noodles, we bring water to a rolling boil in a small pot. Before dropping in the noodles, we take some of the water out to warm up our serving bowl. This keeps the soup and the noodles hot for longer. As we made the noodles fresh, they won't need long to cook. We're putting 90 seconds on a timer and dropping one of our noodle portions into the pot. Immediately we stir to prevent clumping. Once 90 seconds have passed, we take them out and strain them really well so that there's no noodle water diluting the soup. We take them to the serving bowl and place the noodles inside. If you want to be fancy here, you can give your noodles a little fold, and ideally do a better job than me here. Next, we add our soup, vegetable and meat mixture. Now it's time to finish the assembly. First, we add some nice butter corn, then the julienne scallions, which go right on top of the noodles in the middle, and then we layer 2 slices of vegan chashu to the side. For some additional richness, we put a nice block of vegan butter or margarine on top of the corn. Finally, we add the thin slices of green onion. And with that, we are done. Our first bowl of vegan Sapporo Miso Ramen is complete. This bowl is immensely rich and satisfying. The noodles are chewy, the broth is thick and creamy, and the corn provides some juicy sweetness. Thank you, and see you next time when we are making vegan chashu that is as juicy and flavorful as the original.